Good morning and welcome to the Upzone, where understanding politics is made simple. We are your two hosts. I am Tisha S. Waddell, former City Council representative for the 3rd District in the city of Fayetteville, North Carolina, and Mr. Elmer Floyd, former House representative for the 43rd District in the state of North Carolina. Good morning, Mr. Floyd.
Good morning, Tish. Good morning, and thank you for letting me get through the 4th of July unharmed, unscathed.
Bless
And
God.
I also want to thank the U.S. Postal System for having that stack pile of mail. And some of my dons was within that stack pile. So thank you.
Some of your who?
I feel some of the bills
Oh,
was in
okay.
those stack pile of mail, and it sort of delayed them arriving at my residence. So I'm good. I'm good for another week now. That's the best I feel in a long time, G.
Sounds good. All you needed was a little vacation.
That's all, and they gave it to me now.
That's all you
They,
needed,
they,
just
they,
a little
that's
vacation.
all. That's all I need. That stack pile of mail and my some of my bills was in there.
I
You
understand.
know.
Mr. Floyd, what announcements do you have for us today?
Now, really, you can talk about the new superintendent. That's the NAACP is having their banquet on. I think it's September the 13th at 1 o'clock at I
Okay.
Mike on Fort Bragg. And the tickets are going to be just $50.
Okay. Just
And
$50.
that's the
Okay.
and then too, I know you're going to talk about the superintendent and the board, the Hope Mill Board of Commissioner voted 3-2 to do stagnant terms for
Well,
4 years. And
go ahead and talk about the superintendent because I have that listed as one of our announcements. So go ahead and share
yeah,
about our new superintendent, Mr. Floyd.
well, he came aboard, and Tish. Um, and the thing that I like about his experience is that he mentioned that his strength is removing low performance schools, and we have
Hmm.
17 of them here, and that's an area that he is going to concentrate on. So we
Absolutely.
need it. We have of the
Absolutely.
84 schools, we have 17 that are low performing schools.
And
So
well, I'm not gonna get into that today.
hmm,
Because when you talk about low performance, Mr. Floyd, there are some metrics. Like the grading scale is very confusing when it comes to how we grade our schools. It's very confusing to me because the grade that I see does not reflect what's being said based upon my understanding of a 7 or a 10 point grading scale. But if you're familiar with the grading system, you know what I'm talking about, and I don't have to get into that. And if you're not, you have to just kind of familiarize yourself. But every year, our schools are given a performance grade, and that performance grade is listed publicly. So you can go and look and see how the schools in your area or your children's school, as it may be, is performing, and just kind of, have that arsenal of information. Mr. Floyd, interestingly enough, though, as we're talking about the new superintendent coming on board and stating that his desire is to come and duplicate some of the successes that he experienced in Sampson County and in
Smith
I
and up there Smithfield.
so the the trajectory that he wants to take the school system on, the question that I ask is it too little too late? Because there are parents who are still and these are, remember, we're talking about parents for the most part who are low income earners in our community who want a different option for their children and are taking advantage of the opportunity scholarship. And we've got parents who are still applying, even though the deadline is passed, they're still applying because apparently there's still funding and they're still getting the funding upwards of almost $8,000 per child to send their child to a private school. And so, Mr. Floyd, as we're seeing this, is this turnaround of the ship coming too late for the school boards? Do you think that they're going to be able to retain students at the rate that they desire to do so?
Well, I don't think so because parents now are looking at what's best for their child.
Absolutely.
Before Trish, is that and still today, public schools are provide education for those that enter into the door. Doesn't make any difference. It's for everyone. Now, when you look at charter schools, and a lot of people that are Democrats, get upset, with charter schools. But when you have to look at it, when charter schools were formed, there was 100 charter schools formed. That was the max one, and they
Hmm.
was formed by Democrats. I remember when you was young, and I understand from your parents that your cell phone looked like your pocket bag.
Yeah,
Okay.
we didn't have cell phones back when I was in school.
Yeah.
That was for
But
doctors, but
today,
yeah, we didn't even know
yeah,
about that. Those were, yeah.
but today
We had
technology has
pages.
changed. Yeah.
Hmm.
So technology has changed. And so from the 100 public schools to now, today we have over 200. So and I say that from a technology standpoint of view, you know, something today don't look like it was, 20 years ago.
Absolutely. And
So,
Mr. Floyd, even with the inclusion of charter schools, many of the well, I'll give you an example of one of the parents that reached out to me over this last week. I had a mother reach out to me, two small children, both in elementary school, one just starting, one preparing to transition into middle school. And this parent said to me, because because their children are currently in a charter school, they said to me, "I'm not happy with with the trajectory of this charter school." And I'm paraphrasing. They said that they were looking at the way that the the administration was being hired and who was being put into key places, and they're familiar with the school because they've had their child there for some time. And Mr. Floyd, they're now looking at the private school as an option because they want a different experience for their child. And so we went from charter schools being the option for low income parents. And again, this is why, and I'm specifically speaking about low income parents because income was the differentiator between the choice for public or private school. And so charter schools served to kind of provide this quasi private school experience, but without the income requirement attached. Well, now that the income requirement is being essentially leveled through the Opportunity Scholarship, we are seeing these parents opt for the private school experience. Typically, this had been something that was reserved for parents who had expendable income, who were not trying to make ends meet and just make sure that the rent got paid and the bills got paid. This was reserved for parents who had, you know, $5,000, $6,000 of additional income each year that they could invest into their children's academic experience. But now we're seeing that shift. And I really just I pose to our audience the question, does that mean that the public school system has a lot of ground to make up if they wish to retain or recruit more students? And what does that ground look like? And as the public school system is having a conversation, we talk about bills all the time. We just saw the governor sign a bill into existence that bans cell phones in the classroom. And so now we see Cumberland County Schools being very proactive and wanting to reach out to the population and say, let's have a conversation about what this looks like. But Mr. Floyd, you and I both know, you just talked about the cell phones. These are appendages for these children. And the public school system already has disciplinary issues that extend beyond what most of the teachers in the classroom can handle. What is this going to look like? And is this a part of kind of proliferating? I know that the governor probably thought that this helps, but does this proliferate? What does this do? What are we seeing?
well, it's something like uh, I follow you, you follow me, things across the nation and across the state. Uh, uh, but when you look at what is taking place in our school system with the violence that's on our campus there,
Absolutely.
sometimes those cell phones by students have provided communication to their parents and outside when drama take place. So, but we tend to follow what Wake County. I'm just using Wake County. Wake County may tend to follow what's over in South Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee. That's what we try to follow in order to make sure that we are sort of up. I'm gonna use the word up to date and
Mm-hmm.
following what's there. But but the question of it is, public schools take what you bring, give them, and educate them. So when you look at about 24 billion dollars for both biennial years going to education, that's a lot when you talk about a budget of about 33 billion dollars in education. Gets the chunk,
As it should,
of
because
that.
a well-educated society would tend to, you would think that they would be a more peaceful society. That would be the inference. However, we're not seeing those dollars pan out in that regard. In North Carolina, we have, and I'm gonna just talk about in Fayetteville, we have an underqualified workforce, which means that we cannot court large industry. We cannot court certain types of industry because we don't have a qualified workforce to support their needs. We have a high crime rate, which, if we follow the logic that education reduces crime rate, we're not seeing the output of that in our community. So what benefit is our community receiving currently? And I'm not asking this question in a demeaning or demoralizing way. I really pose this question: what benefit is our community receiving from this investment? Is it being it is it what are we missing?
Well, we got a curfew, Chief. I know it's not part of what you're talking about. We was able to get a curfew, and when industry look at your community, they look at all of these things, and most of the time, their workforce, consists of a younger workforce there, and they look at all these things. Now, the question of it is, if you are going to bring a industry, you're going to look at education. You're going to
Hmm.
look at what that social environment have for your work. I mean, for your people once they, are off the job. But when I look at you having a curfew, as an example, you have a curfew. That's sending to me that there is a problem somewhere in the community.
And I'm looking
I mean,
forward
I
to
mean, I know
hearing.
you're talking about.
No, yeah,
I know you're
absolutely.
talking.
Go
I mean,
ahead.
that's one of the factors. So, am I going to put my employees at risk? And when you look at all this, I know we're talking about education, but then again, see, over the years, we have elected people who have had a tunnel vision.
See, so there's where I was getting ready to go. For the vast majority of time, we've had these people who come into offices and they say, "Here's what I'm going to do," and that all sounds good. It sounds great, but there has to be. And maybe I'm so results oriented, but the type of person who believes that results come from understanding the root cause. And so to hear the root cause identified and articulated, to me is so useful because it lets me know that you really do understand what's going on and how it should be addressed. But I don't really hear much of that when we talk about education in our community. And when we talk about, now, when I'm in behind these closed doors, Mr. Floyd, I hear it. When I'm in closed door meetings with people that govern and people who hold these seats, I hear these types of conversations happening where we're talking about, the decline of the family, the breakdown of the ethical and moral fabric of our community when we're addressing those things. But it's not something that's publicly talked about because, see, Mr. Floyd, there's no governmental fix for the decline of ethics other than to have ethical government. There's no governmental fix for the breakdown of the family other than to have a governing body that recognizes the strength of preserving the integrity of the family. But I digress. But you understand what I'm saying.
Mhm. But that's why I'm hoping that this new superintendent,
Brings it.
will look at will bring what we need, because the lifespan of a superintendent is about 5 to 7 years.
Hmm.
That's of any superintendent or any city manager or any county manager. Life expectancy anywhere between 5 and 7 years. If you stay
Yeah.
longer than that, you are truly blessed by God.
Absolutely. Speaking of blessed by God, I hope he is a praying man. I hope he prays to Jesus, to God through Jesus, because really, I don't see a change for any of these bodies separate and apart for people who are petitioning heaven for this change, because we need
Teach. You
heaven to
got to
help
keep
us.
hope. Teach. You got to keep hope.
I do hope.
Jesse
I
Jackson
know where my
always
hope
say,
lies.
keep
I'm
say keep
hopeful.
hope alive. I mean, but when you look at it from a standpoint of view, I know we talked about we mentioned about the Hope County. I mean, the Hope Mills
Yeah, let's
board.
talk about that. Let's talk about that. Well, first,
Well,
let's talk about the candidate filings, because I want to move through methodically. So, candidate filings
yeah,
have opened up.
yes.
And we have seen not a lot. Interestingly enough, we have not seen a lot of activity in terms of candidate filings. We've seen one, two, three, four people announced for mayor. We've seen three people announced for city council district one. One person, the incumbent, has filed for district two. One person has filed for district three. One person has filed for district four. One person has filed for District 5. One person has filed for District 6. No candidate has filed for District 7 or District 8. And for District 9, two candidates have filed. So one of two things is getting ready to happen, Mr. Floyd. Either all of these people that have filed and are uncontested are about to slow walk right back into their seats, or we are getting ready to have an onslaught toward the end of the filing period of people just coming in and putting their name in the ring. What do you think is getting ready to happen?
Well, Teach, I tell you, some of us, you know, believe that we are so graced that we can file at 11:59. We don't have to worry about it because that's how great we are. We don't have to worry
I
about
don't think that that's what that
competition.
says, Mr. Floyd.
Well,
I don't think that that's
that's what it say. I mean, when I look at it, I mean, filing for anyone is an opportunity. That's. I mean, no seat is a permanent seat.
right.
No seat, and no seat is a seat that's Tish Wardell's seat. It's not your seat.
It's
I
the
mean,
it's
so,
the community seat.
but the but comes in that you can't wait till the last minute and file and file. Everyone should file. Doesn't matter. But when I look at it as an example, with the mayor race, and the mayor kept saying, I'm running until I say that I'm not running. So the minority community looked at this person
They should have listened to
as,
me.
well, they should have. I should
Because
have
I
listened to
told
you.
y'all.
I mean, I should have listened to you, but I
Yeah.
gave you 50-50 until I started talking. So now the community is trying to find a minority candidate so they won't lose that minority representation as it relates to the mayor.
And you
But
really can't just go and identify somebody based upon their status as a minority, because one of the things and Mr. Floyd, I know we joke a lot and talk about the inadequacies of the attentiveness of some of the members of our community. But I will tell you, my recognition of our community is that there has been an awakening, and they are paying attention, and they do have a desire to have a better pool of representation. And so I would venture to say that I don't know that necessarily the timing of filing is what's most important. I think what's going to be most important in this season, particularly for this council, is going to be the messaging that comes forward and the way that each of these
what
candidates
message,
represents
T?
themselves.
What
That's
message you
exa-
talking about? I mean,
that's
what
that's
message
the
are you?
point, Mr.
I mean, come on,
That's
let's
the
be
point.
real, T. What
That's the
message are
point.
you? I mean,
People don't want to hear.
I
They don't
have
want to hear
heard,
same old, same old.
I have heard ever since I've been here, my
Public
beloved,
safety, infrastructure, Murchison Road,
uh,
um,
ever since I've been here.
stormwater. People don't want to hear. People don't want to hear that.
I, I mean, that's all that you hear. But I'm gonna ask you, in the last decade, have you seen other than Fayetteville State any new activities on Murchison Road? I mean, but you hear
You hear my answer,
improve.
right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, but what the beautiful word that they tell us, when I get or we get that grant, we are going to enhance the Murchison Road car. They use that word, T, grant. They're not talking about initiatives on behalf of the city to do this, nor the county. We had Glenn Adams, that was the chair of the Cumberland County Board of Commission. He told you, Madam Waddell, that the E. E. Smith High School was not a high priority.
Yeah,
Okay, Madam Waddell?
yeah.
Now here it is, a minority gonna tell you that could have built this school prior to this $160 million that this county board of commissioners set aside. But now, that's one thing that I like to. I'm gonna be honest with you. All along can be employed by Amazon because they can deliver a good message.
Well, and this is so let's say this.
Okay.
So let me say this. I do agree that there has to be a revisionary approach. And what concerns me right now, particularly with the fact that many of these seats are uncontested, and that in the mayoral race, many of the seats are people who are already on council right now. There's going to have to be somebody's going to have if a member of this board that's already there wants to be elected, they're going to have to acknowledge we've been getting it wrong, and they're going to have to explain how they will do better to get it right in that position. And I
Let me
just
ask
don't
you a question
see.
then. Let me ask you a question. Let me start by ask you a question. If 7 of the 10 return, how much change do you think will
Well,
be?
let me say this, Mr. Floyd. Let me just say this. um
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Say it. I mean, what I'm gonna even go back and say,
I don't
if
know that.
6 of the 10 return, how much
I
changes? How
I
much
think
change
from
do you
what
think
I'm
gonna take
hearing,
place?
I think from what I'm hearing in the community, let me go back and look at. Let me be factual before I answer this question. Hold on, Mr. Floyd. So currently we have one, two. Okay, I'm gonna say this, Mr. Floyd. I think we may see um, half of the Fayetteville City Council, at least half of the Fayetteville City Council, change over.
Do you think DJ Hare is gonna
Oh
is
no,
going?
I think DJ Harris. I think he's going to be in his seat until he decides he's ready to retire.
Okay, see, so we can look at that change. Okay, Malik Davis.
I'm going to tell you who I think is going to stay. Let me tell you who I think is going to who for sure is going to be in their seats. I think that Lynn Green is for sure going to probably keep her seat. DJ Harris for sure probably going to keep his seat. I think this go around Malik Davis is probably going to keep his seat. I think Dino Hondros is a toss up right now. Nobody's filed for 7 or 8, which means they may be looking to put their name in the hat for mayor. So that's 3 candidates right now that I think for sure, if things stay the way that they are, will keep their seat. But Mr. Floyd, that does not mean that Kathy um, or Mario is going to be elected mayor. So that's 3 out of the 10. That's so there's a chance that if if God so wills it, that 7 of these seats will change this time.
Wake me up when it does. Yeah.
I love the boredom on your face.
Wake me up when that change take place. Yeah. Okay. Wake me up when that change take place.
Well,
But if you look at it,
let's not forget all of the scrutiny that our community is currently under legally. Let's not forget that, because we've been seeing all around us um councils being the object, council members being the subject of SBI investigations and FBI investigations and audits and, state audits. And so please don't think that they're just not looking at our community. So pending the results of some of this information that's being looked at, we might see a total shakeup. You never know.
As I mentioned, Madam Waddell, wake me up, minus what you just said.
Okay, come
Okay.
November.
Yeah. I mean, because
Wait,
whether it's
Mr. Floyd, did you just say what I think you said? Did you just say minus what I just said? So aside, so if what I said holds some value, what I'm hearing you say is that may be the only way.
that is the only way, because if the same is elected, whether it's Kathy or whether it's Mario, the the agenda between the two still remain the same. Okay, still remain the same. So I don't see that much change and that much economically and physical growth. But now, one thing that I heard over the last several weeks is the city of Fayetteville future land use. So keep that in mind as you look at going into the future as Fayetteville begin to move in, hopefully in a positive direction, because we got to move from a tier one to at least a tier two. We got to do that in order to grow. And right
Hmm.
now, we do not have the infrastructure to do that. I would love to see
And
our
that's it.
community.
But Mr. Floyd, somebody has to acknowledge that. They can't just keep saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Somebody has got to acknowledge we just don't have the infrastructure to shift us yet.
Well, I think that, what the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners need to do is to look at Harnett County, need to look at Sampson County and Robinson County, and see if they cannot build a small mega site that would attract an industry who is looking for 1,000 acres to to build a facility. Uh, uh, you know, as you look at exit 61, exit 65, you know, how can we attract this? But then again, when we do it, we don't have the water to uh, to provide to them, nor the infrastructure, mean the road that teach. But we're gonna work on that though. We're gonna work on that. So until we're able to do this, I don't know right now that we have a site right now that has a 600 acres. I know up in Godwin, they have, I think, 320 uh, acres for a small development. But
Hmm.
when you look at Godwin now, Godwin for the first time, they're going to have about 125 plus new construction, because the accessibility to I-95 and 295. So when we start looking at economic development, those areas are going to grow. But the thing in our community, we look at all the growth in the downtown area, but our community, I hate to say it, Tish, is going west.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Floyd, and as you pointed out, there's a reason for that. There is a reason for that. Now, um, we've talked about the candidate filings. I do want to go back to what you mentioned because I think this is interesting because I have mixed feelings about this, Mr. Floyd. So we just saw the
Hmm.
Hope Mills Board of Commissioners vote to extend the terms in a staggered manner, 3 to 2 on Monday, to amend the town's charter, extending elected officials' terms from 2 to 4 years with staggered elections. In support were Mayor Pro Tem Kenwana McCray, Commissioners Brian Marley, Joanne Scarola, emphasizing that this change brings continuity and stability, especially for long term planning, grant applications, and minimizing turnover, disrupting town projects. The opponents were Commissioners Elise Craver and Jerry Leggy. They raised concerns that it overrides the voters' will. Residents previously rejected the measure in 2018, 57% against, and again in early 2013, stating that it concentrates power by reducing accountability. Residents have 30 days to gather signatures. They need more than 10% of the registered voters, approximately 1,900, to force a referendum in November. This is a hard push. It's hard to get those signatures, but if you've got the right kind of people, you can certainly get it. This change will take effect this November, and initially the top three commissioners elected, top three vote getters, will be elected to receive those 4-year terms, and the next two will serve 2 years. Future elections follow the staggered 4-year pattern, maintaining continuity. Again, they believe that this framework will strengthen strategic plans, facilitate grant and funding stability, and improve town efficiency by reducing turnover. Mr. Floyd, I feel two ways about this. I certainly, but before I tell you how I feel, how do you feel about it?
Well, normally in these cases, well, first of all, I just have a problem. This just me first, that you have these, during the off election years, whether I'm talking about the national. Okay.
Hmm.
I think it would be different, if it was all done at the national, at the same time the national level take place. You have a greater voter turnout. That's one. Normally, it does not take place during that electoral cycle. It
Hmm.
normally take place during the next, other words, what they vote on now would take place 2 years from now,
Hmm.
not that it would take place during the same election.
Hmm.
So, you have the signature that you had to get by within 30 days. But the beauty of that is that I believe that they will get that 1900 to put on the ballot, in November, because I think it had to. Well, the Board of Election want these kinds of things at least 90 days prior to they begin to print the ballot. But I just wish that it would take place. It's too late now. That's my thought. In the 2027.
Hmm.
That this. But again, you know, uh, you know, uh, the will of the people was that no. But then again, time changes. But
Hmm.
let's go back and see, will the will of the people remain the same as it was in 2018? You know,
Right.
time
And
changes.
so, and I agree with you in terms of the will of the people. And I also look at this and I do understand the value of 4 years. I understand that because it gives you time to prime the wheel, prime the pump and grease the wheel and really maintain the momentum. However, I do agree that that accountability and that ability for the voters to be able to come in and say, uh-uh, that's important. But we do see that the commissioners work on a 4-year pace in our great county. I think that you guys at the state level, what were you, 2 years, right?
2 years.
Right. And the city is
Two
two
years.
years. Right. So
The United States, the members of the United States House of Representatives serve 2 years. The senator 6 years. So every elector, I mean, everyone, it's different there, uh, and I understand. But then again, Madam Waddell, if you are not doing anything, you mean tell me I got to look at you for 4 years?
well, Mr. Flood, you've said that there are people who are not doing anything that we've looked at for 20 years. So, I mean, what's the difference?
Well, it's just politics. I mean, 2 years, 4 years. I mean, when you look at Cumberland County, I don't see any of them moving us out of tier one.
Yeah, and I think probably what should have happened, because I don't have a problem with 4-year terms. I do think that if there's a process where you can give it to the people and allow them to decide, you do that because this is government is supposed to be about the will of the people. It's not supposed to be about the will of the politician. And so I think that it would have been advantageous. And you just have to know how to position a conversation in order to put that out to your constituency to gain their support. Just like Mr. Floyd, when we had to talk about at-large districts, I was a proponent of that, but we could not gain the consensus across the community, which means it fails. And you can't be upset about that. If you want it to come back, you just have to understand where there were issues so that you can
Well,
address those issues and close the loop.
well, Tisha, I think that the thing is we the people until I get elected.
I will say this. I personally, no, I'm gonna say this because I personally know at least one of the people who goes in favor for this, and I will say that I don't think that that's her character. I do think that there had to be something in the background that really made this. But I'm gonna go back to what I said, Mr. Flood. I think there had to be something going on in the background that really made this a viable option. I think what we have to start doing as governing bodies is taking what's happening in the background and putting it front and center so that people can understand our rationale. My thoughts, sir. My
Okay,
thoughts.
okay. Sounds
I love it when you
it
do me like
it
that.
sounds
But
good, see.
well, but in
It
but in
sounds
in
good.
reality, Mr. Floyd, it does work because that was one of the hallmarks of my service to my community was that I'm going to tell you what we really talking about. And most of the time, even if it was something that was difficult, I was able to gain the support of my community by simply explaining to them the reality of the conversations that we're having behind closed doors. Because we're not all crazy in these seats. But if you can't go and tell your
Yes.
people what y'all are doing, they think you are.
Well, like I said, Tisha, those persons that we elected are also part-time employees of Amazon. They can
Extended
deliver
grace
a good message.
extended grace period
They
for
can deliver.
standard licenses, Floyd. What's that about?
Yeah. Well, North Carolina, we have a growing population of about 10.4 million,
Mm-hmm.
about 10.5 million people. And of those 10 and have, have about 7.1 million of those people have North Carolina driving license.
Mm-hmm.
And the driving license that come from the Department of Motor Vehicle have had problems, problems, and problems.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that they said that in order to that's waiting line and all this, appointments, waiting line, and all of this. So as of July 1, 2025,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to renew your license until December 31st, 2027. They
So
give you
Senate Bill
that 2 year grace period.
391, that was Senate Bill
Yeah,
391, signed
yeah.
by
Give you
Governor
that
Johnson
grace
Brown.
period.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Give you that grace period. Now, please, and you also don't take that point lightly. Saying I got 2 years to do this, and
Right.
you go to Virginia, Tennessee, and South Carolina. They may not recognize this extension. It's only good here in North Carolina and
Right.
states that are willing to recognize it. So still pursue your license, your operating, and that's
Get your
and that's
license.
class C.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Well,
class
there's
C.
some other restrictions,
But now
Mr. Floyd.
some other restriction.
Yes, so these extended expired licenses do not work for ID purposes. You cannot use them
Oh,
to
okay.
fly, rent a car, open a bank account, get a prescription, or
Mhm.
notarize documents. And like you said, other states or federal agencies might not recognize them. And the moratorium does not cover commercial licenses. Your CDL is not
Mhm.
covered, and any other license
Mhm.
that is suspended, revoked, or canceled is not covered. This is just for an expired license, not all that other stuff.
And don't try to go to like you said, and don't try to board a flight.
Please don't.
Okay, don't
Please
try to board
don't.
a flight. Get to the airport and
And you'll be
say that
sitting
you
right
want to
here in
go.
Fayetteville, yeah, or
Okay,
Raleigh.
yeah. So
Don't do it. Don't do
it's
it.
good. It's good, and it will help those persons. Because a lot of people are working from 8 to 5,
Yeah.
and a lot of times they get it. And then this too also allow the person who has an appointment, that they can go next door and drink a cup of coffee, and they will be called instead of just waiting in line. That time frame to renew their license. We have a problem too when we talk about a population of 10.5 million, and we have over 7 million with operating license, it creates a problem. And then plus the Department of Motor Vehicle have moved to my great state, Rocky Mount, North Carolina, the headquarters. And now Raleigh is trying to look at now what they want to do with that land. Very valuable land off Newman. I think it's off Newman Avenue.
How
So
y'all get how y'all get to DMV, Floyd?
well, DMV was looking for a place to move and who can give them the best offer. It was just like Billy Richardson and I when we was in the House. Billy Richardson and I said we will vote and support the budget if you will move the new health department, human services, at exit 65.
Mm-hmm.
Because we knew that I-95 was being widened from Cumberland County to I-40, which for a young person like you, that drive is about 30-35 minutes a pit stop.
Mm-hmm.
So we saw that it would benefit Raleigh and also would allow the area up by Godwin to grow. But we wasn't successful, but we tried it. So when you have an opportunity to sit in these settings, you take advantage of the opportunity. But we wasn't successful in doing that. But we offer that as part of our compromise to support the budget.
Absolutely. Mr. Floyd, the last thing that I want us to chat about is, and thank you, Pam Carter. I see you. Thank you in our comments. We appreciate you always when you have something to say to us, and we are trying doing our best to get a response back to you on all the things that you put up. Anybody else, y'all make sure you tune in to touch base with us, talk
Oh,
to us, because we want to hear you. Go ahead, Floyd.
Tish, Tish, we tried. One person asked us, could we get somebody from the Chamber of Commerce? I think we were trying to
They
get
specifically
Nat
asked if
Robert.
we could get Nat Robertson on.
Yeah, but Nat
He said no, thank you.
mentioned,
He's
yeah,
not interested right
but he
now.
does have a staff person, but he does have two staff person that he can send to possibly address the common, Chamber of Commerce. So
Hmm.
if that person is willing, we can bring those two staff persons on to talk about the Chamber of Commerce. So not that we did not look at what they asked us to do.
And we're
So
still
that
working on the list. We're still working through the list that was provided to
yeah,
us because I
yes,
think it was
yes.
AL Van. AL Van gave us a list of people because we put it out there. We said,
Mm,
who do you want us to bring on to talk with?
yes.
And so we're working through that list to see who we can get for you. We've been a little bit busy, so we haven't been able to make fast
Yes.
progress on the list, but we will make some progress.
Hmm.
Mr. Floyd, what's your final thoughts? You sent me an email from APAC about them wanting to flip some seats from Republican to Democrat, some vulnerable seats. Let's talk a little bit about that. First, I want to read to you the comments that came in on our Facebook page because I always think it's so interesting when our viewers leave us their comments. So what we heard, we got two comments. One of them was from David Mann, and he said Democrats in North Carolina were an early target in North Carolina after the Citizens United case before SCOTUS, which allowed corporations to spend dark money. The redistricting that has been done since 2010, you talk about this all the time, Floyd, makes Republicans less vulnerable in U.S. Congress seats. The congressmen elected in Fayetteville were once consistently from Fayetteville, Lumberton, Elizabethtown, etc., for example. Now they're from heavily Republican leaning areas near Wilmington, Charlotte, and Southern Pines. Democrats here are too weak to challenge them. And then Linda Ziesman Palmer said, as the new policies are implemented, eligible folks will see no reduction in benefits and the economy will continue to improve, which doesn't bode well for Democrats. What are your thoughts, Mr. Floyd, in response to this push to overtake some of these seats?
Well, when you look at demographics, I'm not saying they're true, yeah, and you can't overcome demographic. I think that the article that I sent you, it had 26 or 28 seats that the Democrat Party is going to, challenge to try to take over the U.S. House seat.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, North Carolina was not one of those.
Which
Okay.
speaks to exactly what David Mann
Yes.
said
Yeah.
about the security of the Republican seats in North
Yeah.
Carolina.
So in the last election cycle, it was 7-7, and we picked up a seat, a U.S. House seat. So now it's 11-3.
Hmm.
Now, please bear in mind is that the district are going to be drawn again in 2032. Now the governor played no role in the elect. When it comes down to election and redistricting, he has no veto power over that. So you can imagine that the district will remain the same. The makeup will still
Hmm.
be about seven. I mean 11-3, but that's just statistic. You know,
Hmm.
so when you look at that, and I think that Kimberly Hardy, you know, or which indicated that she was going to file for the seventh congressional district, and I began to again data that I already know and looked at. It's a very very difficult road to gain, but all things is possible. And as I mentioned to you, on the program, that I wish her the best, like any person that filed for office. But I give you an example to you. Right next door to us, which was Robertson County, which is
Hmm.
a tri-county, mean Native American blacks and white. So
Hmm.
when I looked at Robertson County, and remember 10 years ago, Robertson County was 71% Democrat.
Hmm.
71% Democrat. Now, today it's down to 33% Democrat. Republican, now
It's
is
the unaffiliated.
14%.
It's us
Yeah, it's 25.
unaffiliated.
It's 25%. So when you look at that data, you can look at the Democrat. I mean, the demographic is changing. And when you look at what is taking place in our community, the Democrat Party, my seatmate ran into this district, got very little support, as it relates to gaining that seat. And the person before him got very little. But the amazing thing about my party that I love, Tisha, that I love, they don't support you, but when you win and get elected, they want you to follow their agenda. Now, can you imagine that? You
I
didn't give me
can.
a dime. You didn't give me a dime, but you want me to follow your agenda. So
Yeah.
right now, of those 28, North Carolina is not considered as one of those states that they want to pour money in. But I wish that, now the thing about it that I like, is that the Cape Fear Invisible worked very hard to get Kimberly to help defeat me. That's good. You know, they also helped her to become the second vice president of the state Democrat Party. The same group as we talked about before, wife ran for ag. And I just wish that she would have put just a little word in there for her to get some of that PAC money that was available. So I listen to y'all all the time talking about how you want to fight for the community, how you want to fight and represent me. When you didn't even fight to get the young lady
Who is
$10,000. So how
y'all,
in the
Floyd?
world you
Who
gonna
is
fight?
y'all? Who are
Now
you
I'm just
talking
talking
to?
about you in general. I'm just talking about you all in general.
You
So
gotta
so
stop
how in the
throwing me
world?
in with them.
No, no, I mean, so how in the world can you, if you couldn't fight for someone who helped you get to where you are, and you could not get the party that I think was like $43 million, couldn't even get, could not give 10,000. to the wife of the candidate that helped get you elected, you in that position to help channel money. So if you're not working for that person, truly, you're not going to work for me because I'm a
Yeah.
nobody. So that's the problem that we have that she had. But I pray that she can twist the hand of the party to the local state party to help fund her candidate. But the other issue, Tish, aside for this, if we can, Tom Tillis, as we mentioned last week, is not going to seek re-election.
Right.
And again, we have as one of those person, and he's sort of in limbo to determine whether or not he is going to seek run for that office. I hope that the Democrat Party have another candidate other than Roy Cooper. And you want to know why? This is mine and other minorities across this state. If you look at his history, he has not been kind to minority candidates, starting in 2020, when we
Okay.
had 3 African Americans running for a council state, very little support. And in the last year, we had 3 persons, 2 minorities, and the person that we just mentioned, white, that got no support. Then we had an appeal judge that got no support. Then
Hmm.
again, we had the Supreme Court justice person who we all knew was going to run for governor. And then the governor came out and endorsed Stein. Okay. So that's 8 reasons, Chief. And I just mentioned those 8 reasons in talking to my colleagues. But the Democrat Party don't have to worry. Because when 27, okay, 601 1030 speaks, the African American community fall in line. Like last week you talked about them
What is that?
ducks.
What's 27601?
That's the zip code for Jones Street.
Okay.
And that 1030, whatever those other numbers that they help find that zip code number.
That's the last little four, the plus four
Yeah,
numbers. Okay. You
yeah.
better know those
Okay.
numbers, Mr. Floyd.
Okay. I mean, when they speak, it doesn't matter. And I can't blame the white Democrats for the way they treat the minority Democrats.
Well,
Because
I'm gonna
you
have
gonna fall
confidence
in
in our
line.
community. Go
Now
ahead.
you gonna fall in line regardless. If I don't give you nothing, I don't have to worry about it. It's just like the gentleman who was sitting up there, as a pollist. He was watching the poll and he was sitting up there and he saw 10 African Americans go to the poll and they asked how the polling looked. He said, well, look good because there were 10 minorities that went in the poll and vote. So there were 10 Democrat vote.
My prayer is that we're shifting from that in our community.
Teach, please, teach. Continue to pray for us. Yeah.
I absolutely.
Continue to pray for us because they do not have to do anything for a minority candidate. The only thing
Mr.
that
Floyd, I think the fact that we are consistently increasing the number of listeners that we have on a regular basis speaks to the fact that people are open to a different perspective. Because we
I
are
pray to,
definitely, yeah, because we're
I pray.
definitely not pro Democrat or pro Republican. We are just here talking about what's going on. And I think that there's a lot of that
But
starting to
teach,
stir in our community.
power concedes to no one unless a demand is placed
It's
on it.
made. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when I look at it and I look at Morgan Jackson is a visionary. See, he is a visionary for his corporation, which is the PAC. Okay. He gave Josh Stein that $43 million when he had a 17-point lead over Robertson, 29 million. He came back.
That was an
You
investment.
heard it? Yes. And now, so that means that Stein is going to run what, another term. We know
Hmm.
that. So that's give him 8 years. of
Yeah.
funding for his organization. Now,
Yeah.
you know who he gave the lieutenant governor of about $1.2 million. So if you follow trend, we're just looking at data. So that means that she would run for governor. So she would serve 2 terms. That's 16 years. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
following that, Jackson would throw his hat in for governor. So Tish, that's 24 years. The man has already planned funding for his organization for the next 2.5 decades. But the party is going to continue to allow him to manage those funds, and those funds will not be distributed equitably
Mm-hmm.
during the various races. So, but he is locked in for 2.5 decades. Okay, he
No
determined
com-
where the funding
no
goes.
comment from me because that's above my pay grade. But
No,
I understand. I understand what you're saying. But let me say this.
you had to look at it. The man controlled the purse string. He
Right.
controlled the purse
That's
string.
what I was getting
Although
ready
the
to say.
governor,
Yeah.
although
Yeah.
the governor is in charge of that pack, but
Mm-hmm.
he dispersed the money. The governor allowed him to do that. Although the governor in charge. Can you imagine now that the governor, just like we talked about it before, the show you teach, as we exit. When Charles Evans was put in for the Order of the Long Leaf Pine, he had two people that was involved in Stein race, and
Mm-hmm.
Stein need help from. They didn't even consider those two, and that was Billy West, which is the district attorney as part of the transitional team, and Robert Reed, which is the minority leader of the House Democrat Party. Didn't even consider those two signatures. T, please continue to pray for us, please.
Absolutely, absolutely. And let me say this, Mr. Floyd, that's the kind of leadership that I'm looking for. Leadership that will continue to pray for our city. Mr. Floyd, what you want to leave our constituents with today?
My minority community, please, please. If that dog will bring you a bone, truly, he'll carry one.
Yeah. No justice apart from righteousness. If you want justice, first seek righteousness. Um, and what does word tell us? It tells us, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all other things will be added unto you. So if you want all the other things, there's the blueprint.
And somewhere teaching that good book just said use common sense in your decision making. Have a good day.
I love you all, and we ask that you would like, share, subscribe, and follow. Tell a friend to tell a friend, and I guess we'll catch you on the next episode.